Welcome to our Candidates Forum presented by the League of Women Voters of Winnebago County and Oshkosh Media. I'm Margie Davey, President of the League and your moderator today. The League of Women Voters seeks to inform citizens about major public policy issues and about candidates seeking office. We never support nor oppose any political party or candidate. Our goal is to educate and inform citizens so they may vote for their values. Please be aware of important statewide races in the April election so you have time to learn more and make informed decisions about the candidates. The Wisconsin Supreme Court has 2 candidates running for 1 open spot, and the incumbent for the office of State Superintendent of Public Instruction has a challenger. For a list of resources to educate yourself on these offices and the candidates vying for them, check our Facebook page at LWV of Winnebago County. I think you'll find our resources more reliable than the ads. There will also be a statewide referendum question on all Wisconsin ballots. Like the referendum questions presented last year, this again seeks to disenfranchise voters by placing voting limits into the state constitution. Although Wisconsin's photo ID law is among the most restrictive in the nation, the legislature is using this proposed change to the state constitution rather than allowing bipartisan discussions to pass policies. The League of Wisconsin urges voters to vote no on this question. On with our forum now. The 2 candidates competing for Winnebago County Executive are incumbent John Damel and challenger Gordon Hintz. Questions were solicited from the public in advance and may have been edited for brevity and clarity. This is not a debate, and you will each be given the same amount of time for each question. I will cut you off if you exceed your time. I'll try to do it as civilly as possible, but please don't test me. And now I'm going to give you each 2 minutes to summarize your background, qualifications, and your motivation for seeking a role of county executive. Why should voters choose you over your opponent? And we'll start with you, John.
All right. First, I want to thank the League of Women Voters and thank you for taking the time and rescheduling to make this happen. I think these are fantastic ways to find out who the candidates are and what they're about. I am born and raised Winnebago County. I have a beautiful wife and 5 daughters. I've always been about service to community, and really that is something that county government strives in. I went to UW-Fox. It's a little emotional there. Studied anthropology, philosophy, psychology, business, and communications. I think all those translate well to county government. But county government really is about service to people. So I've been really, number one, trying to make our budget process and our alignment of our organization a little bit stronger so that we work more collaboratively, not only within departments, but within our community partners to figure out the logistics. What is the best way to plow our roads? What's the best way to get our services out there? How do we meet people where they're at? And it's been a lot of my initiatives of everybody shouldn't have to just come to our county buildings to get the services. We need to be able to find ways to get out in our community and improve lives, improve outcomes. And that has been a focus of mine, is I ask the question why a lot. And I think there comes a benefit with somebody who comes from the private sector outside of government to have a fresh perspective and to question the way we've always done things. And that's how I spent my last 4 years, and I hope voters give me a chance to have another 4 years to continue doing the same.
Okay, thank you, John. And Gordon?
Great. Well, I'm Gordon Hintz, born and raised in Oshkosh. Live here with my wife and 2 children. I've had more than 20 years in public service, working at the federal, state, and local level, most recently doing 16 years in the Wisconsin State Assembly, where I served 4 years as minority leader and 4 years on the state budget committee. And I think that's important work because a lot of the work at the county level involves state mandated programs, and that familiarity, I think, will help me to be an effective administrator. I also worked in local government for the city of Long Beach, California as a budget analyst and as a management assistant. I earned my master's degree in public administration from UW-Madison and worked for U.S. Senator Herb Kohl in Washington, D.C. I believe in public service. I believe in public institutions. I believe that government's got a positive role to play in creating opportunity in people's lives. I don't necessarily believe in the status quo. I think we have to work for efficient and effective government, and I'm committed to doing that. was encouraged to run and made the decision to run because I think we need better communication between the board and the executive. There's been, some issues over, who manages what and agenda management. There's been some, miscommunication between local government and the executive's office, whether it's the strategic plan or the distribution of ARPA money. But really, I think the biggest thing we need to do is have better communication with the public. I support the idea of getting a strategic plan, but think, for instance, that the public needs to be a bigger part of that and be involved earlier. The city of Appleton is doing their strategic plan now, and is, the public input is a big part of that. I'm a big believer in transparency, and that's not just about providing data and meeting with laws. It's about putting real information that the public can follow so they understand what government is doing. So I would love the opportunity to serve Winnebago County and would ask everybody's support.
Thank you, Gordon. Okay, now I'm going to ask you some public policy questions. These were submitted in advance, and you will have up to 2 minutes to respond to each question. And we'll start with you, John. What would success look like for you in the first year and by the end of your fourth year?
Sure. I think success would be to continue following up and defining what our programs are and looking at the models and the revenue and the cost involved with that, and really defining why we do them. Are they mandated? Gordon mentioned that we operate as the arm of the state. We do function, we carry out a lot of their mandates. But a mandate is a minimum. Should we go above that mandate? Should we go to the mandate? Should we outsource it? Should it be our thing to do or somebody else? And that's really where you're going to find your efficiencies. If we continue to find out who our partners are out there, there are other people willing to help us to do the job and to meet the mandate. So it's really freeing up some of those money and reallocating to things that are really important. Parkview, for example. We have to make sure that is stable for a long time. My mom was a public school teacher for 30 plus years. She paid her taxes to make sure it exists. It should exist for her toward the end of her life if she needs it. So these are things that we have to kind of defend, and we're finally getting into the point where we have enough data and we finally have taken a good health test or physical of the county to start making these decisions and making a clearer path and making sure that we can sustain all these things, sustain it. So I'm really looking forward to the next 4 years of priority-based budgeting and making that case to our committees and our supervisors and our citizens.
Okay, thank you, John. And I should say, if you ever need me to repeat a question, please just let me know. Same question.
Yeah. Well, I think, the biggest thing is going to be heading into the first budget. We're still in a place where we're budgeting for a deficit. The last budget was $6.8 million, where we're relying on fund balance to be able to balance the budget. Yet we know that our actuals come in higher than without a deficit. So we've got to find a way to get our actuals more accurate, so we know that we've got a transparent process and we know where the money's actually going. Once we can do that, I think we can do a better job of stabilizing the county for growth. We face a challenge where we might be dealing with federal cuts and how we're going to be able to offset those cuts to maintain funding for vulnerable services and programs, and that may completely change what the first year looks like. I think there's been good intent behind a lot of the programs that have been established in the last, initiated the last 4 years. However, I think the execution of those programs have left a lot to be desired, and I think some stabilization, no excuses, no more staff needed to be added, not continued consultants, but actually getting some accountability and some answers is what we need to have. At the end of 4 years, I would like to think that we focused on the growth aspect of things, addressing getting our county on the same page in terms of economic growth and tax-based growth and housing policy, both from affordability and from a homelessness standpoint. A lot of the issues that we're seeing individual communities dealing with, but where the county can play a bigger role in getting everybody coordinated.
Thank you. Okay. I'm going to try to remember to go back and forth. Now, it's just one of me and two of you, so I should be able to handle this, but please stop me if I get it backwards.
We can help.
Thank you.
Am I supposed to look at the camera?
Yes, please.
Okay.
So,
I didn't know what that signal was.
Yeah, look at the camera.
This will go to you first, Gordon. What is transparency to you? How specifically would you create more transparency and create a better work environment for county departments and other working relationships within the county's municipalities?
Great. Well, I think this is a really important issue, and it's been at the core of my campaign. Transparency, real transparency, true transparency needs to be, more than just, complying with the law, putting data and information out there. The budget has everything that it technically needs to have in it, but is it as accessible to the public, who doesn't deal with government day to day, doesn't make sense in a way that they can understand? You need everybody in your organization, in all the departments, to be able to come to the table as, culturally, to be able to put that information in a digestible fashion that people can understand. And that's what my administration is going to prioritize, because if we're going to there's a lot of distrust in government right now. And if we're going to be validated in the decisions that we're going to make, we need the input of the public. They need to be able to follow the decisions that we're making, and they need to be able to understand those things. So whether it's the budget, whether it's policy, we need to enhance communication, but we need to have transparency with the information so that they understand it as much as possible, so that we can get the feedback we need to know that we're representing the true priorities of the people out there. It's a challenge for government. I think one thing that I've understood in this campaign is that a lot of people don't know a lot about the county, and we need to do a better job of engaging them on what the county does, the services that are out there, and some of the tough challenges ahead of us.
Thank you. John?
Yeah, I think it takes a team. One of my biggest concerns that I have is most people don't know who their supervisor is. And that is the point of the legislative body of the Board of Supervisors. They're the ones that are supposed to be coming out and doing the town halls and talking to people. And most people don't even know what district they live in, let alone what supervisor represents them. So we have to get engaged, and there are 36 of them. So 36 people out there that are supposed to help the executive get out there and find out what their constituents think. What do you think of the policies coming up? How do I explain the things that are moving in county government? Much like Gordon, I think you did a great job helping the governor to represent Oshkosh in your district. You would get out and you would talk to people. I need the same thing out of the legislators on the county board. But again, I don't think that those roles and responsibilities were clearly defined before. We kind of operated like administrative coordinator county, where committees were running the operations of departments, and they were so involved in picking the color of the paint, they weren't going out asking their neighborhood, should we even be in this building? So it's really building that team effort and getting the board to understand what their role is, that they have to be the boots on the ground to go listen to what their neighborhood talks or what their neighborhood thinks. Each supervisor represents roughly 4,200 people. You should know them by name. You should know where they live. You should have their email and their phone number. And when things come up, you should let them know how you feel on things. And it has to be a team effort. It'd be the same thing as a legislator asking the governor to come around and do town halls. That's what representatives are supposed to do, and then you work together as a team. And that's starting to develop. We just passed a strategic plan, 32 yes votes and 2 abstains. That's pretty good unity, and I think they're understanding that, and they're understanding they have to get out and involve people. Can't just be me.
Thank you. Okay, John, I'm coming back to you for the next question. What do you think about the increased spending for county administration over the past 4 years? Has it improved decision-making and outcomes?
Absolutely. It has given us the ability to get out and go after some of these larger things like facility condition assessment. It's given us the ability to get our finances back on track. Gordon's right. We've had these deficits, but then turn a surplus. So it's giving us the ability to figure out where that is and kind of have the county work in alignment. And that's kind of the point. The first day I was elected and got to office, I was handed a book of ethics and told chapter 5917 is your chapter in the state statutes. Good luck. There was no plan. There was no organization. And when counties go to a county administrator model, which Winnebago County skipped, that's when you kind of build that professional government where you have a director of administration, where you have a director of public works. And we didn't have that. It was me and a very nice gentleman named John Fink, who is now retired, who worked in constituent services for a long time, to operate an entire county and hold 18 departments accountable. Just wasn't efficient for anybody to do that job. So the addition of the staff has allowed us to actually function as an organization and get to some of the efficiencies we needed to. We had one person in the county that was doing payroll for 1,300 employees. One person. And we had no redundancy there. We are starting to have redundancies and operational efficiencies now. It's coming together, it's making sense, and it's setting us up in the long run to be much more effective and efficient.
Okay, thank you. Gordon.
Well, I mean, this is one of the questions, related to accountability, and I think the ultimate measure in that is what's the impact, after 4 years on constituents, on taxpayers. Tripling the budget, hundreds of thousands of dollars spent on consultants. What has it ultimately amounted to? I mean, despite the development of priority-based budgeting, I think if you look at this last budget versus the 2020 budget, the last budget under the prior executive, it seems to be less transparent. There's fewer graphs, less digestible information that makes it even harder to follow, and it almost adds a layer of making it more complicated and less transparent. Too often we heard that the reason things weren't getting done or we weren't getting answers is because we didn't have enough staff to do it. In terms of service delivery and what it means for constituents and the people that the county serves, I don't know if the tripling of staff and the additional consultants have made the necessary impact. I'm not saying that an additional position or an additional 2 positions, weren't needed to do something, but I'm not sure that we have seen the benefit to Winnebago County at this point for those kind of investments.
Okay, thank you. And we'll come back to you with the next question. Were you surprised to learn that the Winnebago County Sheriff signed on to participation with ICE, making us one of only a few Wisconsin counties to do so? And do you agree with that decision?
So I was pleased to get clarification from the sheriff that this was not something new, that this was a agreement that just essentially reestablished an agreement that they had done for 5 years, and I felt better that he made a commitment to not be profiling. I think the worst part about the announcement or the press release that came out bringing this information to light, it was the fear impact that it had on communities, whether it was refugees or recent immigrants or green card holders or undocumented immigrants. At a time when people are getting deported, some of them legal citizens, some of them green card holders, some of them refugees, this keeps people in the shadows and makes us less safe. And I think that is what had the most negative impact on our community. Again, I take the sheriff at his word, that this isn't going to lead to any increased enforcement other than taking people that commit crimes that are brought to our jails and holding them for 48 hours, to be communicated with ICE.
Thank you. John, were you surprised?
Yeah, I was surprised. I did not know that it was coming. Neither did our corporation counsel. But I agree with the sentiment. I take Sheriff Motz at his word that this is nothing new. This is something they have been doing. I've been assured that we are not going to send deputies out on the road to profile and round people up. And I believe him to be an honorable man in that. So. Hopefully he sticks to that word, his word. Do I agree with that decision? I maybe. Like if he's talking about that, then sure. If it's going to go above and beyond that, then maybe not. I mean, at the time it is. I understand it, but we have to find a way for citizenship for these people. Our government held the door open for them for 4 years and turned the welcome sign on. Most of the ones that I talk to are well-meaning people. They have strong family values, a deep religious faith, and a hard work ethic. They want to contribute. They want to make America a beautiful thing, and that's why America is so diverse and strong because of that. And I often think of the Hmong population came here in the 70s. How much worse off would Winnebago Winnebago County be if we didn't have the benefit from this amazing community that's come in and filled jobs, and our nurses and manufacturers and all these great things that we need. We should find a path forward to them, and of course let them make us stronger. But there's always a criminal element to everything. If you are trafficking humans or drugs, whether you're a citizen or not, you should probably be detained and dealt with promptly.
Okay, thank you. John, please describe the roles of county executive, county board supervisor, and county department heads in relationship to each other.
Sure. So the county executive is the one that makes sure that our policy decisions that we're going to bring forward are set up properly. Do we have the right information? That's why it was important that we created agenda item reports and did draft resolutions. Have we thought of everything? Have we vetted it before it gets to the committee? Department heads don't actually propose these things. It's the executive office to make sure everything's aligned. Is it in conflict with another department? Have we looked at the fiscal impact? Have we looked at impacts with HR or legal or other costs that may be there? Have we had a full legal analysis of it? Is it lawful for us to do it or not? And then we get the decision prepared, and I have to make sure that the department heads hold them accountable, that they're bringing these policy decisions that are requested to the committees and to the supervisors in the way that they can understand beyond the target and everything that's combined with that. And then it's the role of the supervisors and the committees to make those policy decisions based on the direction we give them, the options that they have. And then when they make the policy decision, it comes back to the county executive to hold those departments accountable to following those policy decisions made by the board and making sure that we're staying within the fiscal restrictions that the board sets. So it's kind of a two-headed team, and I like to say that I focus on the mission and let them focus on the message. So I focus on the operations to make sure that we're doing it and that we're setting up the questions properly, that we have the proper information to make the most informed decisions possible.
Okay, thank you. Gordon?
Yeah, the county board is the legislative branch and the county executive is the executive branch. The county board makes the policies, enacts the policies, and the executive executes the policies and works with his team of department heads or his or her department heads. I think in terms of the legislative branch developing policy, you want to make sure that they are brought the best information so that they can make the best decisions. We also know that department heads and different departments also have to comply with state agencies and state rules. So there are different accountabilities there given the state-county relationship. But one of the things that's really important, I think, for the executive office is the department heads really serve as their cabinet. All of the county needs to try to be moving in the same direction. And I think, one of the things that that's important to me that I, discovered is that, in 2024, I heard the executive didn't meet with his department heads for 11 months, just started again in December. Who's running the county if you're not meeting with your department heads, over the course of a year? That's something that's important to the executive branch, and I think that's something that I'll make sure that we will be meeting every month as a team to learn about the county mission, what we're doing together, how we can work together, and how each department and agency is, what they're doing, so we're collectively, collaborating.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to come back to you, I guess.
Okay.
What specific measures do you support to address the increasing unhoused population?
Sure. We've been talking a lot about housing from a number of standpoints. We've got an increased homeless population all over the county, urban, rural, suburban. We also have an affordability issue, people that are on the margins that are at risk of losing housing. We have a workforce housing shortage as well, where businesses are having a hard time recruiting people to live here because there's a shortage of available housing. In terms of those who are unhoused, we need to continue to play a leading role, a proactive role, given that the county provides a lot of the services that are used to help and provide assistance to people that are unhoused. The county has played a leading role. I'm an advocate for county funding the HELP program, the homeless eviction loss prevention program that helps keep people in homes that might be facing risk of losing their housing, as well as providing additional resources to people that may have just lost housing. We need to continue to help provide law enforcement with social workers and others to engage population on what resources might be available to them. And there's a new effort with in the city of Oshkosh to do just that. But we've talked increasingly that there's more people sleeping in their cars. And can we provide safe parking lots for people that are living in their cars? There's a lot of public education that needs to be done about the fact of the reality that's out there, and that we've got this population that is vulnerable, and that the county has an obligation to help provide services to. So we need to continue to partner. We need to get out of our silos. We need to work together as municipalities, as a county, and with nonprofits to recognize that we've got an issue that's in our region, in our county. It's statewide, it's nationwide, and it's getting more challenging.
Thank you. And same question, John.
All right. Well, this is my wheelhouse. This is something that I was ahead of a long time ago when we knew inflation was coming and we knew things were getting hard, and we got ahead of it with a neighborhood investment grant. That was meeting with other nonprofits. That was kind of the point of it, is to shore up housing instability. I mean, there are plenty of counties out there and plenty of municipalities out there that would trade positions with us in a heartbeat. We have 50 less people in the streets because of the day-by-day warming shelter. We have 70 plus people less on the streets because of the tiny house village. We have less people on the streets because of the sober living houses. We did all these amazing things to kind of make it a little bit more manageable to deal with, and we still have some work to do. I would be more than happy and are looking at some permanent supportive housing options, but it's tricky. When I look at the tiny house village, market rent for those are $1,100. $1,100 a month is market rent for a 400 square foot house. So that is the challenge that we're in. Even if we build it, how do you build something affordable? So you have to get creative. There are hotels available that we could look and try to redevelop into little mini efficiency apartments. It is going to take a collaboration. It's going to take a lot of thinking outside the box to how do we do this. Last night we had a forum, we talked about Golden Girls and how successful that show was. There are plenty of seniors out there that are living in a 4-bedroom home that can't afford it anymore, and they can't afford the utilities. How do we connect them and have them come together? How do we connect maybe some multi-generational things to help around the house? There's college students out there too that can mow the lawn and shovel the sidewalk and still offer rent support for some of these people. So there's a lot of other things that we can do for some of the people that are really struggling out there, because it's a challenge. And then obviously figuring out how to build houses for families and for workforce. Ton Simon, Habitat for Humanity, struggling to build 1,200 square foot 3-bedroom ranches for less than $280,000 right now. That's a problem.
Thank you. Okay, John. Are there specific things not required by state statutes or regulations that you would like to implement or do away with?
Could you repeat that question? Yeah.
Remember, this
Right.
was a submitted question. Are there specific things not required by state statutes or regulations that you would like to implement in the county or do away with?
One that I can think of that I would like to do away with, and state and federal, is means testing. I mean, the gap from where you get help to where you get cut off is ridiculous to where you're actually self-sustaining. So when I have to stop helping somebody because you are now making $833 a month, and you will lose $2 in benefit for every dollar you try to improve yourself, you go backwards in a hole. And you don't even make up for the benefits that you get until you get roughly $2,800 a month in income, and now insurance is your bill. So now that's another maybe $800 to $1,200 a month. So you're expecting people to go from the point where I'm in poverty and I need help and I can only make $830 some a month to I have to make $4,000 a month to have the same services and actually be able to improve my life. I would like those restrictions to be a little bit more flexible. How do we walk along people? How do you not take a loss while you're trying to get a job? When I had my restaurant, I had people that turned down overtime because it would affect their benefits. I had people that turned down promotions because it would affect their benefits, and they couldn't do that. They were required to make X amount or less, otherwise they would get cut off on food share and not be able to feed their family. We're putting people in impossible positions. We need to make that gap more easy to do. So I would love a sliding scale for us to kind of help people to manage that path to independence. I mean, that was one of the reasons we created Heroes of Oshkosh, because we did means test. If you needed a washer or a dryer and we had somebody that had it available to you, it didn't matter if you were both working and had income, but you were struggling and had to decide between that or groceries or rent, we wanted to help you with a washer and dryer. And that's where communities are kind of filling that gap right now, but it's such a wide chasm that it's almost impossible for people to climb out. So that's the mandate that I would like a little bit more flexibility, is the means testing. Our poverty line has not gone up with inflation.
Thank you.
Could you repeat the question one more time?
I know, it's a tough one, isn't it? Are there specific things not required by state statutes or regulations that you would like to implement? Or is there anything you'd like to do away with?
Sure. I mean, reading the question a couple different ways, I guess. I think the biggest challenge with the state mandated services is the funding that doesn't accompany it. Too often the state requires the county to provide services, but then doesn't provide the funding necessary to implement it, putting the county in a difficult position to place those things on the levy to be able to fund services and have local property taxpayers pay it. I think that the previous question mentioned housing and homelessness and housing insecurity. I think the county is facing challenges to play a bigger role in economic development and tax-based growth. And in housing development, things that they have traditionally not been involved in, that are areas that the state is not mandated, and I think the county would like to do more in those areas. We've seen Sheboygan County invest some money in a housing fund, partnering with Sargento and Johnsonville to develop money that can be used in communities that are building workforce housing. We have had some conversations with communities in Winnebago County who are interested in the Industrial Development Fund playing a similar role. We need to start thinking more regionally as a county, not have the northern part of the county with Neenah Menasha maybe identifying more with Outagamie or Appleton. The rural areas seeing themselves as different and recognizing that what's good for one part of the county can be good for the entire county, that we've got businesses that benefit from housing in any part of the county, that we've got people that need shelter that would benefit from a shelter in just about any part of the county. So areas that are not currently mandated by the state that I would like to see, or that I think there's going to be a bigger leading role for the county to play, is probably in housing and economic development.
Okay, thank you. Okay, this will go to you first, Gordon. Beyond what is in state statute, what is your vision of the public health department? Are you in support of strong advocacy on managing health policy, or do you want more of a fundamental services approach?
So I think it's more important than ever that we have strong advocacy. We've got an incredibly professional public health department, that is grounded in the idea of prevention, education, and treatment. And given, we've seen measles outbreaks in Texas and New Mexico that have led to deaths of some children and an adult. We've got policy at the national level that seems to be walking away from science-based information. We're going to need a proactive, positive, and engaged public health department that's putting evidence-based information out there to the public to keep people safe. Now, we don't want to be heavy-handed. We want to make sure that we're bringing people along to meet them where they're at, to address their skepticism, to help them make informed decisions. But they've always done that. I've worked with the Winnebago County Health Department when I was in the state assembly to introduce bills, measures to increase vaccination rates, to make people healthier. And I think that, part of public health is education and promotion. And it seems like we're going to be relying on local public health agencies like Winnebago County Public Health more than ever, given what it seems like to be a declining national and federal role in public health. I think you're going to see local public health agencies across the country playing bigger roles. And I think under my administration, that's certainly going to be the case.
Thank you. John?
Yeah, thank you. We do have a fantastic public health team. From Doug all the way down, they are really great. I think that we should look to some of those old school services again. We need to make sure that we're getting out there and we're checking hearing and vision on kids. Is some of the troubles we're having in education because they're not engaged, or we haven't diagnosed that they can't see the whiteboard, or maybe they can't hear the teacher. Lead paint is a big thing in Winnebago County. We have quickly made our lead abatement program our #1 most expensive but most revenue program in Winnebago County. How do we get after that and remove lead paint from homes? How do we look at some of those health services that we do? And of course, advocacy. I mean, we have to give people best practices, but I agree, but you can't shove it down your throat, because when you do that, you get less understanding and people just dig their heels in. So let's try to understand some of these things. Let's have those questions, not in a way that for vaccination rates of why you need to have it, but why are you not getting it? Can I understand that a little bit more? We actually just had that conversation with measles. We thought, so they still make a measles-only vaccine, right? And there are some people that are worried about some of the things that they've read or heard about the MMR vaccine, and they don't want to get that. But they may take just the measles-only vaccine. So I would rather have somebody get 33% than 0%, right? And if we could do that, that's amazing. Turns out you can't source measles-only vaccine in America, in the United States of America. 47 other countries you can, but not here. So is there some kind of advocacy that we can get from the federal government to say, will you give us the ability to just do the measles-only vaccine and prepare us, our people and our communities for a formula that hasn't changed in 60 years?
Thank you. So kind of not a county issue or a federal issue at this point, right?
Yep.
Yeah. What are your budget priorities for the first year of this coming term? Where do you think we should focus most?
Well, and that's coming to me first, right? Yep.
Yes,
okay.
it is.
So that is kind of some of the beauty of the strategic plan. So we had our supervisors agree. They did this fantastic workshop, and it was awesome to see. We had a good mix of ideological backgrounds and rural and urban supervisors coming together and actually talking things out on issues and things that the county should focus on. I saw Stephanie Holt and Nate Gustafson, who ran against each other on a seat, work together on transportation, talking about rails and other things. It was amazing. So they came up with 5 good pillars for us to focus on, and that was housing, that was transportation, quality of life, economic development, and efficient and effective government. And I think those are the things that we should really focus on to make sure that we're doing our job as the service entity of government. And that's really the beauty of county government. I often say we're the punt returners of government. Mike Collard, our first director of administration, and a friend of mine who is now retired, said county government does everything that other levels of government can't do or don't want to do. So how do we focus on being the best partner we possibly can for the entire county, whether it be Needham, Menasha, Fox Crossing, or Omro, Winneconne, everything west, or Oshkosh. So I think those are 5 good pillars for us to focus on and make a difference.
Thank you, John.
Yep.
Gordon?
Yeah, I mean, I think from a financial standpoint, from a policy standpoint, wanting to, forecast what our actuals are going to be from a budget policy standpoint to make sure that we're able to come closer in our budget forecasting. From a policy priority standpoint, it may be dependent on what happens at the federal level. If there are cuts to Medicaid or other federal programs that impact the state that then impact the county or impact the county directly, the county may be faced with trying to offset some of those budget cuts by using fund balance or some of the Spirit Fund, or considering other options, maybe reallocating resources, maybe looking at new revenues. But if the federal funds don't get cut or the state backfills those, we're obviously going to try to come up with resources to be able to continue funding for the HELP program, which I mentioned before, which is currently federally funded through the end of 2025. That's a commitment that I'm making. But another one is Parkview Nursing Home. At a time when other counties are selling off to private equity, leading to lesser care, I think we need to make sure that we're making a commitment to Parkview so that it's fully staffed. We have a demand for beds out there. It's not, currently being fully utilized. We need to find a way to get enough workers there to be creative with the revenue generation models out there for rehabilitation units and other things. I know there's a study out there that's going to help with that, but that's going to be another budget priority that I would like to have the county focused on. So, try to aim for more accurate budgeting, fund the health program, and make sure that we're supporting Parkview and obviously doing everything to offset federal budget cuts.
Thank you. So, Gordon, what are the advantages and disadvantages of a county sales tax?
So there are pros and cons of a county sales tax. I guess one of the pros is that we capture revenue from people who don't live in Winnebago County who are coming here, the same revenue that we pay when we go to their counties. So it would put us on the same footing as 70 other counties in the state of Wisconsin. The downside is the sales tax is regressive, meaning it hits people harder who are lower income earners. The sales tax is supposed to be used to lower property taxes and is something that the county board could choose to do as a policy. We have seen Outagamie County in recent years pass a sales tax and have a lower property tax rate as a result. It could be used to fund additional economic development programs or housing programs. Some of the things that we've talked about, should again the board decide that those are priorities worth funding. It really comes down to what the priorities are, and what is the trade-off worth it? A lot of the questions come up is, well, do we need it? Because we've seen counties like Waukesha come to the point where saying we need a sales tax to be able to fund our core services. Winnebago County right now with our fund balance is not in a position where we need to fund our core services to have a sales tax. However, it may be that some of those elective areas, could be utilized, or in the future we might find ourselves in such a position where a sales tax could be needed. But again, that's a decision ultimately that would be decided upon by the county board. The executive could put options in front of them. But the pros and cons are we are on an island, that there are only 2 counties in the state that don't currently utilize it. And there certainly are options, for that revenue generation. I'm sure a lot of the municipalities would like a piece of that pie as well.
Thank you. John?
All right, well, I want to preface the question or preface my answer with a challenge. For decades of not planning appropriately, we have a huge capital improvement problem ahead of us. We built a lot of buildings at the same time. We didn't really have a plan. We pushed form into or function into a form that doesn't really fit what we do. We have a lot of aging buildings, and we have roughly $68 million over the next 10 years just to maintain the status quo. So, and that does not include boat launches or parking lots or driveways or runways. So we have a significant challenge ahead of us. Now, we are probably going to have to figure out a way to smooth that out and put that on the debt levy. Now, a sales tax would be a way for us to not do that, to not increase our property taxes to the point where it's hard to do. The benefits, again, I agree with Gordon. We have a lot of tourism. We have AirVenture. We have Crossroads 41, Life Fest, multiple fishing tournaments, national fishing tournaments. Even in the winter, we have people come from all over the United States to drive on ice and think that we're a little crazy. But all these dollars would help fund some of those things. The downside is it does hurt people in poverty a little bit more. That 0.5%, it does hurt people when they're buying clothes for their kids. It affects them more. But again, if that property tax relief comes in, that could be a way for us to address some of the housing issues, providing that people pass those cost savings on. Right now, my property tax is my property tax. There's nothing I can really negotiate about that. But through a sales tax, if I get my property tax lower, I can make decisions in my buying to make my tax burden lower. I have some control over that. So again, it's something that we can evaluate, and as long as we're giving some property tax relief or facing, how do we overcome some of the challenges coming up, I'd be open to it.
Thank you. Well, you kind of usurped my next question, so I'm going to have to rephrase this a little bit. The question is, many county properties need repair or replacement. How do you propose we address these issues? And I'm going to say, how else do you propose we address these issues?
Well, sure. I'm a stay in your lane kind of guy. A lot of those are municipality issues. The county actually only does zoning on 4 towns. We cover the zoning in the town of Rushford, the town of Algoma, the town of Neenah, and the town of Nakaimai. The rest of those are the cities to kind of figure out how they do their zonings and what they allow, what they don't allow, and how they allow people to fix it. The city of Oshkosh has its own challenges. Currently, even if you're capable, you can't fix your own stairs. You have to get a licensed contractor to come and pull a permit, and it costs a lot more than it should be for somebody who could fix their stairs, and a city inspector may be able to go and make sure it's safe. You always want to make sure there's safety. Regulation's there for a reason, but over-regulation can be burdensome. Again, not really the county's role, but we can work with those municipalities and how do we make it easier for you? What are the things that we can do? Of course, you don't want blighted neighborhoods, but I think one of the things when you do fix up a neighborhood, everybody's property value goes up right now. And I don't know if that's a hot button item when you're talking to people, Gordon, but it is for me. So, but we should have safe and secure and nice neighborhoods.
To be specific, I think they were asking about county properties that need repair or replacement.
Oh.
Is that what you were addressing?
Nope, I thought you were talking about properties.
Okay, I maybe forgot to say the word county, which would be silly with you guys. But so I'm going to give you another minute to address that.
That is a really easy fix and a real quick one. When I got there, our facilities director was not able to go in all our buildings, and that was crazy. If our facilities director would have been there 20 years ago, we wouldn't have had to tear down the Basler hangar. It would have been up to date. If our facilities director would have been in the building at Highways, we wouldn't have had to renovate it because of mold. We would have addressed that right away. So that's more of that comprehensive administration of how you get out and you really drive that. So if you let our professional that has the engineering degree, that understands how to upkeep buildings, be the guy in charge of upkeeping buildings, we'll be much better off.
Okay, thank you. Would you like me to repeat the question?
No, I think I've got it. I know they had a facilities plan. I think John mentioned the level of deferred maintenance that's out there. I think the county's going to have to tackle it bit by bit and figure out to have a capital improvement plan that addresses the future building need that's out there and probably do it over the course of years. No one wants to throw bad money at buildings that are no longer going to be needed. At the same time, you want to right-size new facilities for what the future looks like, so it's got to fit in with what kind of vision the county needs are going to be going forward. And so again, I think we know now because the study's done what the facility maintenance budget is going to be. One of the challenges is the longer you wait to do some of these things, the more expensive it ultimately gets. But we're going to have to try to pay for it over the long term. Find ways to try to save money and make decisions on probably rehabilitation versus new construction where it makes sense. But I also agree in being proactive and not letting this kind of work or this kind of shortfall happen again.
Okay, thank you. I think we have time for one more question. And this goes to Gordon first. Okay. What are the first 5 things you would do as county executive in 2025?
Well, in 2025, first 5 things. Well, only 5?
This is all on day 1, you realize.
Day 1. I mean, day 1 as a new executive. Obviously, it's going to be about meeting with department heads, meeting with board members, meeting with municipalities, but also I've campaigned on communication, transparency, and accountability. It's really about setting up those kind of things, about how we're going to fulfill those goals that we've been made, communicating to our team that those are things that are going to be a priority. How are we going to set up better engagement with the public? How am I going to set up town halls, forums to bring county government to people? How do I let it be known that when we're developing the budget that I really want it to be something that the public can read and understand and be in digestible form? How do we make sure that we are accountable and answerable to the public on the decisions that we're making? It will be in April. There are some things, there's been a lot of calls for an emergency shelter, and the time to call for an emergency shelter for the homeless is not when it's in the middle of winter, it's right now. So things like getting those discussions started in the community with what role the county can play is something that I've been thinking of. Letting it be known what things that I'm interested in funding in the budget, and getting ways to come up with how we're going to do that, like the HELP program, and thinking about Parkview before the budget gets started are going to be other issues. But really just letting it be known what my style of leadership is going to be, letting managers know that I'm there to support them, that I want managers to manage, and that that really want to just communicate as much as possible.
Thank you. Okay, John.
It doesn't seem like a fair question to me because I actually have a list of what happens at
Only 5?
Right, for April 2nd. What are we getting to? Number 1 is UW Fox City's campus. We are going to negotiate on that and have a plan. It is paramount that we have that child care solidified right now. And that is something that I'm still working on as we speak. Number 2 is our HELP program. Not only are we planning on making it permanent, we're planning on moving it to behavioral health, where the 2 social workers also operate, are embedded in OPD, and to move that entire program over to where our State Street Center is. So it's going to be moving upstream, not just to prevent people from becoming homeless, but how to get homeless people housed. Number 3 is to implement the master plan study that we did and start putting that policy discussion up to our board on how do we want to tackle our giant capital improvement deferred maintenance problem that we have. Number 4 is get into priority-based budgeting now that we have strategic pillars to measure our programs are and really dive into what we're doing. I think we've mentioned a couple times some of the federal cuts that are coming on, and we're doing the entire federal government in a month. My plan was to look at county programs over a span of 3 years to really take a scalpel in and understand what it does, what are our options on it, and take a decent amount of time to make those decisions. And the last, number 5, would be probably take a nap. It has been a long stretch. It is not easy running a campaign and a county and raising a family at the same time. So I would love to just hibernate for a few days.
Okay, thank you. I kind of lied about that last question. I do have one more because you mentioned something. You mentioned federal funding and how it's fluctuating right now. Mm-hmm. One way we know that's affecting us here in Oshkosh has to do with the newly arrived refugees. Mm-hmm. How can Winnebago County address that with both immediate and long-term needs?
Sure. Well, the how, I'll tell you how we did. What we did is when we found World Relief got cut funding, we looked at the refugees in our county, and the 90-day resettlement program is when people come over here after waiting years in a refugee camp to come here legally. They got here, and the funding was cut off for rents and getting them in an apartment, getting them into jobs, getting them in assigned and enrolled into an English language class. we signed an agreement with World Relief to be that federal funding backup. We were able to do that as a human service contract, and we funded them till the end of April. And then we shared our contract with Outagamie County so they could follow suit and do the same. We will continue, much like we normally do, is they will get some food share benefits until they get sustained on their own. And I'll tell you again, these people get off the programs faster than anybody I know. They are hardworking, they are dedicated. When I had my restaurant, even the Afghan refugees, I had 3 different teenagers that came in to wash dishes that very quickly accelerated into the kitchen and cooking. They were dedicated. Google Translate is not the best, but they find a way, and they get themselves self-sustaining very quickly. So there's not a lot of long-term support needed for refugees. They do not take things for granted. They are very thankful to be here, and they are very committed to making themselves better. So that's what we did, and again, we will address with any needs that we can, because the county government is really the safety net there to catch people so they don't fall.
Thank you. Gordon?
Obviously, the refugee community is an important part of Oshkosh and the Fox Valley and Winnebago County. I think we have the second highest percentage of refugee placement in Wisconsin after Milwaukee. I think it was good that the county intervened, given the cuts to World Relief. And we need to continue to support as much as possible. I know in the city of Oshkosh, almost all of the population growth that occurred over the last 10 years was from new refugee placement. So if we're going to continue to grow, if we're going to continue to meet employer needs, the refugee community is going to continue to play a leading role. Now, with what is happening at the federal level, there's a lot of uncertainty in that. But with the people that are impacted right now, that may feel like they're in limbo, whose families might be half here and half back in their native country, I think it's really complicated. But the county is the government arm of support on the ground at the local level to play a leading role. And is often the reactive arm, that might be able to help and assist, and certainly that's going to be something that I'll continue to do.
Okay, thank you. Now I'm going to give you each 1 minute to wrap up with any additional statement you'd like to make. And we'll start with you, Gordon.
Great. Well, thanks again for the opportunity. I'm Gordon Hintz. I would love to have your vote on April 1st. I've enjoyed the campaign for Winnebago County, getting out to parts of the county that I hadn't campaigned in previous campaigns. As I said earlier, I believe in public service. I believe in public institutions. I believe in public employees. It doesn't mean that we just defend the status quo. I believe in effective and efficient government. I believe in doing things in new ways. I think we have a number of challenges that we face with an aging population, with a workforce shortage, with housing shortages, with homelessness, that the county is going to need to play an increasing, improved role upon. I think we need to operate better and more effectively. I think we need to communicate better, be more transparent, and be more accountable. And I think I've got the leadership, the background, the education necessary to be an effective administrator. And I hope to have your vote on April 1st.
Thank you. John?
Yeah, I appreciate the ability to kind of respond how I want to. I talked to Gordon. I wish we had debates, not forums. Gordon did a fine job as a legislator when he was at the Senate, and his district covered a city with one city and one school district. Winnebago County is much more. It is 22 municipalities, it is multiple school districts, it is a whole lot bigger ground. And I'd also like to say on the staffing levels that he had more staff in his office for that smaller district than I had in my office for an entire county. So with that small staff and the increases that we did, we've been able to get a lot accomplished. We've been able to get out there and meet people where they're at, whether it's Veteran Services doing satellite hours in Winnebago County and Omro, and finding people and meeting needs in the Hyde Center and the Boys and Girls Club, and getting out of our offices and really improving outcomes. Because I think that's a big thing for me. An executive is not a legislator. It is somebody that's supposed to be that neutral arbiter, almost like the referee in the octagon, to make sure that we're all working together in the best way possible. And I will always show that kindness and that love and that compassion for all of our citizens, no matter if you're an addict or a CEO, no matter if you're a member of the LGBTQ LGBTQ community, or if you have a Make America Great hat, or again, hat on. I will treat everybody with dignity and respect, listen to understand, build bridges, and try to make this the best place to live.
Thank you, John. Well, this concludes our discussion with Winnebago County executive candidates. These candidates answered additional questions during our forum for the primary election, which you can also find on YouTube. On Tuesday, April 1st, you may vote for one of these candidates, or you can vote early. Early and absentee voting allows voters who cannot reach their polling place on election day to vote beforehand. Check with your city or town clerk for early voting availability. You can also go to myvote.wi.gov to find information on registration, ballot, acceptable photo IDs, and polling places. Go to vote411.org to learn more about all the candidates. On behalf of the League of Women Voters of Winnebago County, I want to thank both of you for participating in this forum and Oshkosh Media for facilitating it. Remember, our democracy depends on citizen involvement, and voting has consequences. Please vote by April 1st.